I, 23 female, think my boyfriend, 27 male, is cheating with a girl from his work. What should I do? So my boyfriend has an office job, and I often stop by my boyfriend's office during the week and we'll get lunch together. I noticed a co-worker of his, Sarah, there a couple times because she was at the front desk when I went in. I think I only remembered her because she has a strong British accent and my parents are British. My boyfriend had never mentioned her to me. One day when I came home from work, I heard a female voice through the door of our apartment, and it sounded just like her. I stopped and listened for a moment, but couldn't hear much, and then went in, and found my boyfriend was home alone. I asked who he was talking to, and he said no one, and looked at me strange. But I'm sure he must have been talking on his phone with her, maybe FaceTiming or on speakerphone. Then like a week later, he said that he had to work late, which didn't happen very often at all, but I didn't think much of it. While he was at work, I called him about something else, and then I heard her voice in the background again, and laughter. He had a few more late nights in succession because he was working on a project, he said, and on one other occasion, I heard her in the background again. Then when I went to the office one day, she was on the front desk and acted really unfriendly and cold towards me. By this point, I was getting suspicious. Next, I was coming home from work one night, and I saw her walking right in front of our apartment building as if she had just left the front doors. Then one night I had gone to bed early, and again I heard her voice coming from our living room. I came out of our bedroom, and my boyfriend was just closing the front door to the hallway. He said that he was talking to one of our neighbors, but I'm 100% sure that I heard her voice. My guess is that maybe she had shown up thinking that I was away or something. When I've brought up Sarah in conversation, my boyfriend always pretends that he doesn't even know her at all and that they've hardly ever spoken, which makes me think he's hiding her from me since they work together. So I have no real evidence, I guess, but I keep hearing her and seeing her, and I just have this real sense that something is going on with this girl and that there are too many coincidences to ignore. What do I do about it? I haven't told him anything about it yet. Is that what I should do? Trust your instincts. Something is going on for sure. It is very telling that he's acting like he doesn't even know who she is. Tread lightly, since you don't have any super concrete proof, even though in my mind there is no doubt. I don't know what kind of area you live in, so maybe it's possible she lives in the same building, unlikely considering all the other instances that you mentioned, but it is very concerning that you saw her leaving your apartment building, and it's possible she was there while you were sleeping. If she is bringing her into where you guys live, that is just beyond disrespectful. And OP replies, yeah, he just says that she's part-time in a different department and part-time reception, so he doesn't know her much. We live in a busy area, so I guess she could have been walking down the street, but I don't know. Never lie to yourself and find excuses for your boyfriend. That's how you end up giving yourself unnecessary heartbreaks. Deal with it face on and know that you deserve someone better. There is always someone out there that will treat you better than what this expletive is doing. He will try to talk his way out of it, but don't effing listen. He won't be sorry because he cheated, he'll be sorry because he got caught. I think what made me suspicious was hearing that you saw her in front of your apartment building. I mean, what are the odds that she both works with your boyfriend and also lives there? And for what it's worth, when I was being cheated on, he didn't mention this girl to me whatsoever, despite telling me about everyone else in his life. And he downplayed his interactions with her until I knew the truth. For now though, you don't have any proof, so I'm not going to definitively say, oh my god, he's cheating. But I will tell you to keep your eyes open and keep trying to communicate with him about it as well. You could also try surprising him at home sometime, since it seems there is a possibility that she might be coming over when she thinks that you aren't there. I would advise to keep your eyes and ears open, but not mention a word to your boyfriend. If anything, act more loving and carefree to throw him off, because that's when he'll get sloppy. Once he knows you're onto him, he'll be more careful if he is cheating. I'd finish work early and not tell him and come home. Does he always tell you when he's staying at home? Do you suspect her to come over during weekends or evenings when you're working? Whenever you are suspecting, tell him that you are going out and leave, then pop back home because you felt sick or plans changed, etc. If you are generally not paranoid, this is your intuition. And now, onto the update. So, I made that post on Friday afternoon. That night, I tried to ask a bit more about Sarah, just to see how he would react and such. He didn't say much though, just that he didn't know her well. The next morning was Saturday, and my boyfriend was up early, and then said that we needed to talk. He seemed really nervous, and basically just said that he was worried about me, and he thought that I needed to get some help. He said I kept talking about this girl Sarah that he barely knew, and that I was saying strange things that didn't make sense. I got angry and started listing off all the things I put in my post, but he just got upset and said that he needed me to understand that these things didn't happen. We went back and forth like this for a while, but he was so adamant that I started to get scared. Something I didn't mention in my post is that I have epilepsy. It's controlled by medication so that I haven't had a seizure in 3 years, but I have a neurologist that follows me. So I called his office and went in yesterday morning with my boyfriend. I told him everything that had been going on, and my boyfriend did the same from his perspective. He said that at one point on Friday night, I had asked him about why he communicated with Sarah using the neural Wi-Fi and not me. Which obviously sounds bizarre, and yet I remember thinking that too, and thinking that it made sense. The bottom line is that my boyfriend is not cheating. In fact, he doesn't really know Sarah other than a few interactions at work. Instead, my neurologist's working theory is that I'm having auditory, and perhaps, though less likely, visual hallucinations related to my epilepsy. I guess that can be a symptom of the type of epilepsy that I have. It's called temporal lobe epilepsy. It's hard to describe, but even as I'm writing this, I still feel suspicious of her and my boyfriend, even though I know that nothing is actually going on. I have an MRI scheduled, and then they will know more. We are planning to adjust my medications, and the MRI will, I guess, tell the neurologist more about what may be going on, medications to try, and whether surgical intervention is a potential treatment plan. In the meantime, I have some exercises to do so that I can sort of examine my own thoughts. My boyfriend has been really fantastic the last few days, sort of taking charge of everything, because I feel quite out of it and lost with all of this. You find yourself wondering what else might have been hallucinations, and really self-conscious about what you are saying. I have a referral to a specialist to discuss with that too. So yeah, I'm scared, but also really happy to have my boyfriend with me too. I'm still processing things. Thanks to everyone for the advice that I guess I didn't really need in the end. I'm not sure what else to say. Thanks. And now in the comments, fellow epileptic here. Those meds can really fuck with your head if you don't stay on top of them. The side effects are also really nasty too. You will also need to adjust dosage or types over time. It's just a fact of life. Turning 40 this year and haven't had a seizure in over a decade. Still get tested regularly. Good luck, and I hope it all works out for you. And OP replies, I've been lucky with my meds so far in that they have been effective, which isn't the case for others. I'm hoping a dosage adjustment is all that is needed, but we'll see. It probably is just a dosage adjustment. While I have been on maybe about 6 or 7 different types of meds, when they put me on Depakote, one that most actually steer clear from due to its side effects, it was the only one that totally worked. My dosage in the beginning of these meds, around 18 years ago, was I believe 250 by 2 daily. Now I'm at 500 by 3 daily. I've gained some weight. Some of the older meds kept me scary skinny, like people thought I was a drug addict skinny, and that was the reasoning for the increase. OP replies, my last dosage adjustment was 3 years ago, though I haven't really changed physically since then. I'm quite skinny too though, and a part of that could be because of the Tegretol, which is one of the meds that I take right now. It can mess with how hungry I am, or cause nausea sometimes, I think. I want to say, awesome that things with your boyfriend turned out so well, but I feel bad saying that they may have turned out so well at the expense of your health. I wish for you that it's simple as a medication change or a dosage update to solve this for you. And OP says, I hope so. There are a few different med changes possible, so we'll see. Wow, good guy boyfriend. There is so little happy on this sub that I'm super excited to see this is not a typical situation, despite you having to deal with a serious issue. You'll be okay. You have good support, it seems, and you'll be just fine. I love you as a human being, and I hope this is the last serious health thing that you have to deal with, and from now on, your life will just be happy goings. I can't be alone in thinking that absolutely nobody would have guessed that. I sincerely hope that the MRI gives you something conclusive and that you can work with. I'm glad that you're on the road to figuring this out and not doing so alone. Your boyfriend sounds awesome. Unless, of course, he's a master manipulator and has actually managed to convince you that you are going through a mental/health crisis that you are not. That seems really bloody unlikely though, just the paranoid kind of crap that this sub makes you think of. And OP replies, yeah, no kidding. I'm hoping that it is related to my epilepsy, to be honest, because the other options are things like schizophrenia, which is terrifying. My neurologist seems pretty confident though, and said that he has seen issues like this with other epilepsy patients of the same type. I guess epilepsy can present as schizophrenia in certain circumstances or something like that. I'm wondering about the whole British accent thing. Maybe the hallucinations are old memories of your mum's voice being processed in weird ways by your brain. Since Sarah is on your mind and you aren't around a lot of British accents, you naturally assumed that it was her. And OP says, I have no idea. There was some terminology that my neurologist used to describe how sometimes patients lock onto a particular stimulus or something, and then they can have paranoia or delusions related to it. Something like that. It was a lot to take in at once. This was a really interesting story in that instead of the boyfriend flipping out and then both escalating, she got help and he is supportive. I really love when we see people behaving like caring adults on these posts, and I hope OP is able to manage these distressing symptoms. Maybe the fact that she was talking crazy? Neural Wi-Fi, like, really? And he knows her well enough to see that she believed all the accusations she made, helped him get worried instead of upset. I'm glad OP is getting the help she needs. Damn, that's really scary. One can be so sure that something is their reality when it's absolutely not. I hate knowing that this could happen to anybody. One of the most bizarre stories I've ever heard is from a friend who didn't know that he had an antibiotic allergy. The dude was convinced he had birds coming out of his light bulbs and people hiding in his mattress, so he threw it away. He said it all sounded so logical at the time, and he really believed that it was all happening. I didn't realize antibiotic allergies could cause such crazy hallucinations. If you have ever done psychedelics, you can see shit, but you know it's not actually there. I can't imagine having a hallucination that makes no sense and just thinking it's real. Edit, I've looked it up, and I guess it's not necessarily an allergy, more along the lines of a rare side effect in some individuals. Antibiomania, a type of psychosis that presents in some people after taking certain kinds of antibiotics. I'm going to confront my husband about how I suspect he's cheating once he gets home. Hello everyone, I'm 27 female, I have a husband who is 32 male. We've been married for 4 years, and I think he's cheating on me, and I'm going to talk to him when he comes home, and I'm nervous, so I'm here. I think he's cheating with a woman from down the street. I've noticed them getting closer for a while, even though I've never actually seen them together. When I asked him about it, he said, oh, we run into each other sometimes and catch up. We both have Life 360 on our phones. Not for any particular reason, just safety really, since we used to live in a pretty bad area, and about a month ago, he switched it so that a lot of the times he's in a bubble, so it gives an approximate location for him, not an exact. When I asked him why, he just said he doesn't know why or how it does it. We had a block party over the weekend, and I walked into the kitchen to find them standing very close, and his hand was in her hair. When I asked him about it later, he said, oh, I thought she had a bug in her hair. He keeps getting up in the middle of the night to go make phone calls. When I ask him about it, he just says that he can't sleep and he's playing games, and that he's just talking to himself. I feel like even if he's not cheating, he's still not being honest. I just want him to tell me the truth, but I'm nervous and I don't know what to do, so I'm looking for any advice. And now in the comments, be prepared for him to lie, to paint you as crazy, to be hurt that you could even suspect him. He will flip the script and make this about you and your insecurities. He may tell you that you are controlling. Don't let him. Stand firm. Be prepared for him to trickle truth. Don't let him take you for a fool, because he'll definitely try. In fact, delay confronting him until you're in a better place mentally and have accepted that he is cheating. Have some evidence and have a concrete plan for how you'll deal with the aftermath. He is going to continue to deny it. You will need solid proof for him to admit anything. Can you look at the cell phone records to see who he's been calling late at night? That's a good start. There you go. Confront him with that and the fact that you called the number to confirm, and he'll fold so fast. He'll have no leg to stand on with his bullcrap. Exactly. This is the way I confronted my ex when I caught him. Full-on spreadsheets of times and lengths of his calls to her. He had nothing. Ah, crap. That hurts like hell. I'm sorry. The other advice is good. Don't confront until you have the answers ready. When we confront, I think we are finally looking for a full confession, a capitulation. Acknowledgement that you've been right all along. Details, honesty. Most importantly, we are looking for remorse, apology, an agreement for restitution starting now. We want it to go back to the day before we knew. We want to be wrong, be reassured that our relationship is strong, the fairy tale. That is not what happens. He knows you know. He thinks he's been convincing you his lies are truth. He knows how much more you don't know. He has built a world and you are not in it. You know the saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, he's a duck. Momentarily he can deny it to your face, have you in some doubt for a little while longer. Don't let him. Don't show your hand, collect hard evidence, screenshots, audio, video, and even with that, he'll deny it. But do it anyway. Collect the evidence for you, your own sanity, not for him. With evidence, take your time, don't let your anger at the betrayal sidetrack you, play the game a little longer, and then decide the outcome you want. You no longer need to confront him. First, you make and start to implement your plans, your future. This way, you may avoid months and years of heartache, self-doubt, self-loathing, fear, hurt, and questioning. But I guess we all gotta do it in our own way. And now, onto the update. Hello everyone. I posted yesterday about how I suspected my husband of cheating. I know a lot of people told me to wait until I had solid proof, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't pretend anymore. I already haven't been able to sleep. I couldn't do it for another day. So when he came home, I told him everything. I said basically everything I said here, and I asked him flat out if he was cheating. And he said even though they haven't physically cheated, he did have feelings for her and he wanted to be physical with her. He is staying with his friend, and I'm going to contact a divorce lawyer tomorrow. I still don't know how to tell my friends or family, and other than here, I haven't told anyone. Now in the comments, you tell your friends and family the truth. Do not protect him. This was his choice, so he has to deal with the consequences. Keep your head up. You will be so much stronger. And the truth is, he had an emotional affair. These feelings didn't come and smack him on the head out of the blue. And that is if he is telling the truth. OP caught him with his hand in her hair at a party, so it's not a push to think that they have gone further in private. I am so sorry. I'm glad he finally decided to fess up, and I'm even more glad that you are protecting yourself from further deception by contacting a divorce lawyer. I'm curious, is she also married? OP says, thank you very much. No, she's not married. You deserve better. And now, you'll find better whenever you're ready. You're a strong woman and deserve a faithful husband. I'm sorry, OP. I know how much this hurts. I'm glad for your sake that he was honest. Has he tried to explain or reach out to you? Did he admit that she is who he has been calling and texting in the middle of the night? And OP says, thank you very much. No, he hasn't really explained other than saying what was happening. Yes, he did say that it was her that he was talking to. As someone who was cheated on physically and emotionally, I get what you're feeling. People may think because they hadn't slept together yet that it isn't cheating, but it is. Emotional cheating hurts. It is still a betrayal. He crossed a line, betrayed your trust, and broke his vows and promises to you. Never underestimate a woman's intuition. That was his first mistake. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. If divorce and leaving him is the best choice for you, do it. Someone has to think of your well-being, because your husband certainly hasn't been. If you do decide to stay with him, that is your choice too, but require him to be accountable and honest about his intentions and actions. Take care of yourself. Our next post is titled, "The woman I am seeing, non-exclusive, left the party with another man in front of me. Now she is calling me again." So, we have been dating non-exclusively for about a month now. We went to this party together, I drove, and was going to remain sober as I had to drive us back too. Around 2 hours into the party, she suddenly came towards me, with a guy in tow, and told me that she would be leaving with him tonight, and I didn't have to worry about her. She stood for almost a minute after telling me this, and kept looking back at me till she was out of view. I was of course very disappointed, as I really liked her, but well, what can you do? But she called me 2 days later and asked if I wanted to hang out. I was confused, but I didn't really say anything except I'm busy, maybe later? And she said cool, let me know when you're free and we'll schedule something. I don't know Reddit, why would she call me afterwards? Technically she didn't do anything wrong, but what she did obviously hurt me. She must know that. Then why call me afterwards? Any advice? And now in the comments, okay, I'm 30, been in a relationship 8 years, and actually had to recheck how old you both were because again, this comes across as two 18-year-olds. You are grown adults. Communicate. What is with the games of her testing your interest and you making a decision by Friday about exclusivity? Dating culture these days just sounds so incredibly immature and so much more complicated than it needs to be every time I hear a story from someone. You want her? Then make it exclusive and put this game-playing bullcrap behind you. And OP says, I do want to see where it goes if I'm being honest. If you two want to be together, then you both need to learn how to communicate with each other better. You guys are almost 30. It's time to stop playing games and start approaching these problems like adults. She is 28 and should communicate, not play games. I agree, but I do sympathize because dudes can be weird when you are straight with them. I told a guy that I had a huge crush on him after 2 months of dating, and he said that I was pressuring him to say something he is not ready to say. Dude was 45, I'm 37. Who has time for this? It does spook you, and you don't want to scare someone away. She definitely screwed up, but she is significantly younger than I am, and I was a little screwed up by the 45-year-old's response to me. Men, hashtag not all men, get so weird about exclusivity and commitment. Your experience is so common. Many want all the benefits of exclusive dating without ever having to say the words or actually commit. I'm not surprised this woman reacted this way to her recent experiences. It's not ideal, but dating is a mess. She didn't want to come off as clingy and insecure, so she decided to play mind games and making you hurt, possibly jealous, instead? Assuming what she told him was true, it sounds like she isn't particularly experienced nor confident in the dating world. Given that, it's not surprising she ended up doing something stupid. As long as she can communicate clearly in the future, and this isn't a sign of how she deals with issues, I don't see a problem here. And now on to the update. So the general consensus among the comments I read before going out, it was 100 comments till then, was that I shouldn't talk to her, but I really wanted to talk to her and get her side. There were 2 reasons. Firstly, I was genuinely surprised with this behavior of hers, as this is not how she behaves normally, and secondly, I really like her. So I decided to meet her for a cup of coffee. When we met, I told her how hurtful her actions were that night, and although we were not exclusive, that is not how you treat someone that you like. She was very apologetic and told me that she didn't hook up with the guy and he just gave her a ride home. She showed me a text that she sent him around 45 minutes after she left the party, where she told him, thanks for the ride. Then she told me that she just wanted me to say something to her or stop her. anything to show that I was interested in going official with her, but when I didn't say anything, she just decided to go home. So then I asked why not ask me, and then she went on a mini rant of sorts. She said when she asked the last guy to go exclusive after 3 weeks of dating, he called her insecure and clingy and laughed at her for being out of touch of the dating realities. She also said that he told her that no one would want to be exclusive before 2 months, so she's just playing herself by hoping for exclusivity so early. She obviously broke up with him, but she told me that his words have obviously stayed with her. And when she and I didn't discuss exclusivity, even after 1 month, she feared that history was repeating itself again, so she was desperate for any sign of my interest. She also says she didn't want to come off as clingy or insecure without getting any sign from me. That's why she didn't initiate the exclusivity conversation with me. She does seem to be very sorry and wants us to continue dating exclusively. I am torn right now. I obviously like her and want to see where it goes, but I'm also hurt. But then again, everyone makes mistakes sometimes. Does that mean that I should ignore our obvious chemistry and potential? Oh, and also, she was pretty drunk that night, so that didn't help too. I have asked till Friday to tell her my decision. Any advice? And update number 2, so I just came back after having dinner with her, and I asked her to be my girlfriend, and she accepted it instantly. So that's settled. Also, I told her to refrain from any games and testing in the future, and just to talk to me if she has any issues or doubts, and she agreed. I reminded her that although we had a rough start to our relationship, we can make the next phase a much smoother one if we just agreed to communicate even on the difficult issues, and she was in complete agreement. Since it was our first date as officially boyfriend and girlfriend, I thought not to push the issue, and then we went for dinner to her favorite sushi place. I still can't eat well with chopsticks, so I had to use a fork while she ate sushi with chopsticks like a boss. So that was the update. We are exclusive boyfriend and girlfriend now, and I am really happy. Thank you all for those of you who made me realize that waiting till Friday was futile. Thank God that after that messy start, they both decided to use their actual communication skills. It's fun seeing the moments people learn how to be adults. Aw, this reminds me of something I witnessed as a young teen. My mum worked at this coffee shop, and I would hang out there after school for a couple of hours every day until she was able to take us home. Once I saw these 2 people, a guy and a girl, enter separately a few minutes apart. They started chatting in line, chatted from their separate tables, finally decided to share a table, then spent the next 2 hours talking and laughing. They were exchanging numbers by the time I left. I was just astounded. Felt like I got to watch a meet cute in person while peering over my homework. Before that, I didn't realize people met like that in real life. I thought it was just in movies. I still wonder if it worked out between them. Communication is better than games. Totally agree, but it's sad in this story that you can see why well-intentioned people learn to play games sometimes. Ideally, you were mature about it to not internalize the message the girlfriend's shitty ex-boyfriend told her, but it's not so easy to do, especially as so many people are told that their validation comes from the opposite sex. I'm glad it worked out for the 2 of them. I've heard of an analogy that falling in love is akin to giving them a gun and trusting them not to shoot you. It's human nature to be hurt by harsh words by someone you really like a lot. I wouldn't necessarily put this as only a validation issue. It's situations like this when I'm glad that when I was dating, I tried my hardest to make sure that I treated everyone, whether it was working out or not, with kindness and respect. That way, they wouldn't be left with the idea that mind games like that are healthy ways of treating other people. To do otherwise not only hurts them in the moment, but can potentially hurt them for other relationships down the line. Hopefully both have learned lessons that games and relationships suck, and communication is the cornerstone that you build upon. Our next post is titled, "Mother-in-law just called my kid the K slur, Jewish. Boyfriend insists that she said tyke. I know what I heard." So apparently I can't use the word, so I'll just say K. If in doubt, just Google Jewish slur K. I'm Jewish. My son looks like a mix of both myself and my boyfriend in my opinion, but mother-in-law, on meeting her first ever grandchild for the first time ever, says it was a shame he came out a K. The second I heard that, I asked her to leave. Boyfriend said she didn't say K, she said tyke, which rhymes with K and is British slang for a small child. We are British. And mother-in-law agreed with him. But mother-in-law saying it was a shame that he came out a tyke makes no sense. And when I pointed that out to mother-in-law, said that she said she knew he'd be a tyke. Boyfriend then repeated that and continued to repeat that until I asked both mother-in-law and boyfriend to leave. He is now at his place and is texting me, repeating mother-in-law's story. I admit that K and tyke sound similar, but there is no way that I misheard. I knew he would be as a shame he came out and even with the fact tyke means cheeky, my son was sleeping and not doing anything remotely cheeky, and saying it was a shame he came out a small child makes no sense. This is also not the only time that I've felt mother-in-law was being anti-Semitic, and boyfriend has insisted that she wasn't, and I've misunderstood, misinterpreted, and misheard, and I'm getting pretty tired of him insisting that I'm wrong about her being anti-Semitic. I cannot and will not let my son grow up around anti-Semitism, but nothing can be resolved unless she is willing to admit what she said and talk it out, which she won't. And boyfriend is siding with mother-in-law when we are meant to be a team here, which is not helping. What should I do? Edit, the other times that I thought mother-in-law was anti-Semitic. She has refused to eat things that I have cooked because she doesn't eat kosher/Jewish food. I have made things like fish and chips before now so she couldn't claim that it was Jewish, and she still refused on the basis that she doesn't eat kosher food. My boyfriend told her his Hebrew name, and she called it gibberish, and she calls any uses of Hebrew, or occasional Yiddish, gibberish. I get a healthy natural tan in summer due to my heritage, and she said my fake tanning makes me too dark, and asked me where I'm really from. She did not find England an acceptable answer. My boyfriend has defended all of this. And now in the comments, shame he came out a tyke literally makes no sense. Tyke is British slang for a child. You would never ever say, shame he came out a tyke. Why? Because it makes absolutely no sense. Oh, it's a shame your child came out a child. Give me a break, lady. You're racist, and it's unthinkable that you'd say that to your grandson. OP says, yeah, it's such a shame that my baby came out a baby. I was hoping for a fully grown man with a mortgage and kids of his own. It was so jarring to me to hear her say that. All I could think was I wanted her out now. Honestly, right now they are trying to make you doubt yourself. Give it a couple days, and the story will miraculously switch to, but it wasn't that bad, it's just a word. As a Jewish person who's been on the receiving end of some, typically, microaggressions, this is so far beyond the pale that I came into your post skeptical. Having read it, there is no doubt she said the K word, and my only question is whether she might have said, shame he came out of a K, which would be equally unacceptable. If you can access couples therapy, I think that would be your best move. Your boyfriend needs to be on your side, and needs to understand that your shared child is Jewish. I think it's also fair to say that mother-in-law gets no access to your son until you're able to talk it through with, and get advice from a couples therapist. You did the right thing by calling her out and making her leave. I'm so sorry that you are going through this. And OP responds, thinking about it now, there is a chance that she said out of a, but to me, the finer details don't matter. Just the fact that she came into my home and used the word K is enough for me. Boyfriend and I already had a round of couples therapy when I was pregnant, and in that therapy we agreed that while our son is Jewish by descent, and I would be allowed to expose him to elements of Judaism as he grew up, boyfriend was going to do the same with Catholicism, and our son would decide for himself later in life. Boyfriend, who wanted to raise him straight Christian, was not happy with this outcome, and said that he wouldn't go back to therapy in the future. Thank you. If he wanted to raise his kid Christian, why be with a woman who is Jewish? I don't understand this. If you're going to do the deed and the result can be a kid, why not consider all factors that comes with the mother-to-be before bussin' a nut? Not coming at you, OP, but I just see so many of these, and it shocks me and annoys me every time. OP says, your guess is as good as mine. We live in a predominantly Christian area, so it's not like he couldn't have found a Christian girl to have a kid with. He had an interest in my faith and culture early on, having not really been exposed to it before that. So sometimes I feel like it was a novelty to him, and that novelty has since worn off. So, like an Asian fetish, there is a Jewish fetish. Damn, people like to fetishize things and you can't detect them early enough. OP replies, I think it's more of a, you are nothing like my mother fetish. I thought I was pretty good at weeding those guys out, but I'm reconsidering. The problem with your custody agreement is it can't protect your son from his anti-Semitic grandma and father when it's not your time. You need to document everything and bring it to a judge so revisions or adjustments could be made. I recommend speaking to a family lawyer now to figure out how to plan things. Every Jewish kid knows what it's like to be called slurs and hear derogatory comments. I was lucky enough to be in first grade before I even heard it. Don't expose your child to a situation where he's growing up, hearing it from the people who are supposed to love him. You know what you heard. I believe you. It makes no sense for her to have said tyke. The best possible interpretation is that she didn't think of the K-word as that bad. Something we, as Jews, have to deal with all the time. It's an acceptable form of discrimination, apparently. So all she meant by that was that it was a shame he came out looking Jewish. None of that is okay. All of that is bad. You can't even move forward with these two if they're lying and not admitting to the reality of what happened. Keep your vulnerable baby away from them. And now on to the update. I sat boyfriend down the day after I made my post and told him that I know what I heard and I wasn't going to let him and his mother manipulate me into thinking I heard something different. He then said that she didn't mean to call me that, but she had never said it about our son. So the person who suggested that mother-in-law actually said that it was a shame he came out of a K, as opposed to shame he came out a K, which is what I thought she said, you were right. Mother-in-law wasn't calling my son a slur, she was calling me a slur. Which I then realized my boyfriend was using as a defense of his mother. I asked him if he was ever going to stand up for me, or our son, against a woman who was so clearly an anti-Semite. And he said that his mother isn't an anti-Semite, and even if she was, which she isn't, our son isn't Jewish, so it's not like she'd be anti-Semitic to him, and he personally wasn't anti-Semitic either. I told him that I have a duty of care to both myself and our Jewish son, so I would uphold the custody agreement we already have. He gets 1 weekend a month, and I would civilly co-parent for the sake of our child. But I had no interest in pursuing our relationship further, and I asked him to leave. He spent the next few days trying to get me to reconsider, but I haven't heard from him at all in the last 48 hours, so I think he has accepted my choice. According to the schedule, he's meant to have our son this weekend, but I have not heard from him about this as of right now, and I appear to be blocked. I also got a text from mother-in-law letting me know that she's going for grandparents' rights and visitation, which has to be an empty threat, as a 2-minute Google has already confirmed that she won't get it, but I'll check with a lawyer ASAP just to reassure myself. And now in the comments, spineless expletives, these people. I'm sorry for that situation. I believe you absolutely did the right thing. OP says, expletives implies warmth and depth, but thank you. I feel like I did the right thing, which is strange, because I was expecting to be doubting myself after this, but I'm just not. I feel like I did the right thing. How delusional is this guy? Please inform him that his son is indeed Jewish, seeing as how his mother is Jewish. OP replies, I did tell him that. He doesn't believe it because we agreed to raise our son with both my Jewish and his Catholic faith and let our son decide later. I told him that doesn't stop our son being ethnically Jewish or Jewish by descent, but X insisted that it did. The fact that your ex is adamantly pushing that your son isn't Jewish so much shows that he shares the same views as his mum, which is why he agreed that she could call you a racist slur and that wasn't crossing a line. But he and his mum drew a line at a racial slur being used towards his son. Be careful. They are clearly going to do everything to erase your son's Jewish identity and teach him not to identify as being Jewish. What a crappy defense. She wasn't calling our son this, she was calling you this. But she's not an anti-Semite, eh? Because she didn't mean to call her that. She meant to say what a lovely boy, but accidentally called Opie a slur instead. Happens all the time, no big deal. Sarcasm, obviously. That woman is obviously the worst. I detest the "I didn't mean to" excuse. Who cares if you didn't mean it? That's not the point. If I want to give my friend a gift, but instead trip and throw it at them when I fall, obviously I didn't mean to fling a present into their face, but the fact stands that I did. If I refuse to help or apologize, then I'm a horrible person. Anyone with a shred of empathy or basic decency would check on their friend. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. Rather than, it wasn't on purpose, it wasn't what I meant to do, so I don't care that you're hurt. How dare you act aggrieved? The same as, I didn't mean it. Well, you still said and did it, and it still impacted the person. If you genuinely are not bothered that your words or actions hurt another person, then there is a very serious problem with your empathy. It's a basic refusal to take responsibility for one's own actions, using intent, or lack thereof, as if it somehow is an excuse. Most people grow past this during childhood, or during their early teen years at the latest. I would have loved to see the ex's thought process during the confrontation. Okay, so she's not buying the tyke thing. I know, I'll say that my mother was racially insulting her instead of our child. This is a flawless plan. If I just bullcrap her hard enough and look like I believe it, I'll get to date my girlfriend and still sleep in mommy's bed when I have a nightmare. This will be flawless. How do I get my very religious father to reason with me and not force pregnancy on a church member's daughter? A little background. My father, 61, is a pastor and the leader of his cult-like church where everyone lives in fear of hell and members treat him like a messiah. For the most part, my father always seemed like a good man who means well. Back to my story. Almost 2 weeks ago, we had a church member come visit us with his daughter, who is 16 and pregnant. The girl absolutely does not want to keep the pregnancy, especially because of how she got pregnant, which was a traumatic way, and her father is insisting that she keeps it. They came looking for advice, and my father also believes that she should keep the pregnancy and that otherwise would be a sin. After they left, I, female 20, tried talking to my dad because I saw how miserable this girl looks, and knowing how everyone worships my dad, whatever he says will fly. I tried reasoning with him how it's wrong to force that poor girl to keep the baby, and we got into a heated argument, so I apologized and left. 2 days later, I brought it up again, and this time my father said, "Everything happens for a reason." And that pissed me off, so I told him to step out of his religion for 1 second and think like a compassionate human being. And he got angry and started quoting passages. Again, I left so it wouldn't get even more heated. A couple of days ago, I decided to talk to the girl myself, and after talking to her, I know in my heart of hearts that she will do something dangerous to herself if she is not given the help that she needs. Unfortunately, termination is illegal in my country, so it took me a while to finally get a doctor to do it, but due to it being illegal, the doctor is charging an arm and a leg, and it's too late for her to use pills. I decided to reach out to some friends that I thought were liberal for help because I alone cannot pay for it, and I don't know how, but my father got wind of it and they suddenly withdrew their help. I confronted him and we went back and forth where he told me that I would be committing the greatest sin by helping her, and I snapped and called him the devil himself and that he would rot in hell. He became quiet and hasn't said a word to me since. I know he wouldn't kick me out because of how he'd be perceived in our community for kicking out his young daughter, but he's been cold. I got texts from some family members saying what I'm doing is wrong and that I'm causing problems. My mom also told me to back off and that I hurt my father terribly by saying those things to him, especially knowing how scared of hell he is. I refused to respond because there is a girl in dire need and I've been trying to get her help. And so far, I haven't been able to get anyone to help with the remaining cost. I am willing to deal with whatever comes after the termination. I know my father is the only one who can help at this point, so how do I get him to reason with me and give his approval? What do I say to him? And now in the comments, go to the abortion subreddit. They have an abundance of information and ways to find help and fund it. They would be more helpful and knowledgeable with the information that you are seeking. I am very sorry to say this, but people who are that deeply religious are usually not the people that you should reason with logic. If you are hell-bent on convincing your father to change, I would recommend using the words of the Bible against him. Like in the law, try and find a loophole that's acceptable to him and you. Compromise will be the way forward. You cannot reason with an unreasonable person. Help this girl as best you can, stop fighting with your father about it. And OP says, I literally don't know how else to help her. I cannot afford the cost on my own. Call Planned Parenthood. They'll cover the cost and keep her medical information secret. And OP says, hi. Unfortunately, we're in Africa and not the US. There are non-profit organizations which support and provide access worldwide. Here is one that's listed on r/abortion, but it's not the only company that mails pills and connects people with local services, which is safetochoose.org. And OP replies, thank you so much, I'll check it out. Though the first place that we went to, they said that it was too late to use the pill and that she needs an in-clinic procedure. You know damn well there is no reasoning with him on that subject. Even the father of the girl didn't come to him for advice, he came to him knowing exactly what your dad would say, so he could pass on responsibility for that decision and also to reinforce what he already wanted. Sorry man, but you have no chance there, and you never did. I know it sucks, but good for you for sticking up for your personal morals and making yourself heard. Most people could not do that in similar situations, they just say what their parents want to hear, especially pastors' kids. And now, onto the update. While my post didn't get a lot of comments, I got a few PMs advising me to talk calmly to my father and put myself in the girl's shoes, and also an update. So I spoke to my dad and unfortunately, he is refusing to listen. I also tried speaking to the girl's father, and honestly, I think he is worse than my dad. At this point, I don't know what else to do because I have genuinely tried my best, but I am not giving up. My father has influenced everyone, and they are refusing to listen. A kind stranger from this sub sent us some help, but we still have a little ways to go before we can afford the procedure, but I have hope because I am determined to get her the help that she needs. I will be the one woman in her corner. This isn't the update that I wish I was sharing, but it's where we are at, and I'm really grateful for the kind words that some sent to me because I was beginning to doubt if I was doing the right thing helping her seek for help. And edit, I have been getting a lot of PMs from people calling me a devil and that abortion is a sin. While I respect people's opinion, I don't agree with forcing pregnancy on women, especially the said woman went through trauma. Please stop sending me private messages, trying to convince me because it is impossible. As for those just straight up insulting me, I have no response for you. I'm going to do everything within my power, even if it means begging on the street for this girl till she gets the help that she needs. This is the last update. Thank you. You are a uniquely kind and amazing person for what you are doing. I wish I could help, but all I can do is say that I believe that you are doing the right thing. And OP says, thank you. Does the girl have to keep the baby, or is she allowed to at least put it up for adoption? Oh no, they don't believe in adoption, so no. Well, that's even more sad. If you do a little online digging, you should be able to find funds to help people access abortion in your country. It's hard to give concrete resources without knowing your location, but I hope that you find the help that she needs. She is very lucky to have you, an adult, in her corner. OP, will there be legal ramifications if you help the girl for you? You are a good person, but you need to be careful because you don't want to end up in prison in a country that's patriarchal. Start planning your escape quietly from your father. Is this the life that you want for yourself? And OP says, no one takes the law seriously over here, and knowing my dad, he would manipulate the situation and make sure the public doesn't find out that his daughter was involved in something like that. Our next post is titled, there is a drunk girl, 20s female maybe, in my room. What the hell do I, 21 male, do now? So I was at the club with my friends drinking and all. We met a group of girls, we danced, it was fun. Some of my friends went away with a few of the girls, and a few of us left. And then I began to chat with this girl from that group. She's very drunk and very flirty, and as we talk, she asks if I want to take her home. This was very new to me because this was the first time a girl at a club seemed interested in me. So me being an idiot, didn't take into consideration she was drunk, took her back to my place. Well, I was getting freshened up, and when I came back out, she was passed out on the bed. I tried to wake her up so she could go back, but she's down. Now I'm panicking a bit, cause I don't know what to do here. Do I just leave her alone? Do I try to call her friends or family to pick her up? Do I call the cops? Did I do anything wrong? Please tell me what I should do now, and maybe in the future so this doesn't happen again. Now in the comments, if you know who to call, like a friend of hers or parents, it would be very good to. They could get worried. Make sure to lay her on her side because drunk people can die if they sleep on their backs, as the reason is gross. Make sure she's comfortable and there's a trash can and a glass of water nearby. And OP says, I got an idea. I'll text one of my friends who went home with a girl of her friend group, so they know where she is. Leave her alone. Sleep on the couch or something. Explain what happened, and that nothing happened in the morning. Is she just asleep, or do you think she's having a medical emergency? If she's just passed out and will wake up fine, then make sure you have water for her and keep her safe, and be a true gent to her in the morning. If you think there is a medical emergency, do whatever it takes to get her help. No matter what with her down and out, you have to do right by her and take care of her however she needs. And OP says, how do I know if it's a medical emergency? She's sleeping and breathing normally, and I didn't try to violently wake her up, like water on face. If she's sleeping and breathing normally, then you're all good. Make sure she has a trash can or something to vomit in if she needs. Sleep nearby, but not next to her, and just be a good guy here. And OP says, yes, I got a trash can ready, and she's on her side now. I put some pillows so she doesn't move that much and lay on her back. And on to the update. So I put her on her side with some pillows, water, a trash can, and a note explaining what happened. Then I shot a text to my friends who did go with girls from her group, but they haven't responded yet. A few minutes later, I went to take a nap on the couch and woke up about 10 minutes ago. I'll go call them now, hoping they're awake. Thank you all. And final update, I'm happy to report that things went smoothly. She woke up and came out of the room with the note, didn't puke, but drank the water, used the bathroom, and then called her friends to pick her up. None of my friends read the text or calls yet, so I'm assuming they're in a frickin' coma. She was quiet, and I didn't bring up anything about last night. Her friends picked her up, and then she left. I'm glad it went smoothly. Thanks for all your help. And our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to include my mum when I go wedding dress shopping? So I, female 29, am engaged to my fiancé, male 32, and we plan on having our wedding towards the end of the year. We are so excited, and I cannot wait for him to be my husband. Together, we have planned most of the wedding and have organized all of the vendors except for buying my wedding dress. I've started the process of looking for dresses, but most bridal boutiques are fully booked into 2023 to accommodate all of the weddings which were postponed over the past 2 years. I have called every boutique within driving distance and have been put on every waiting list. About a week ago, I received a call from a local boutique telling me that someone had cancelled their appointment and that a spot had opened up if I would like to take it. The only catch is that the appointment will be early in the morning, as most boutiques have extended their business hours to accommodate as many people as possible. With current restrictions, the boutique only allows for me to bring one guest. So I phoned my mum, female 52, to invite her along. This is an event that I would really like to share with her, and she has always told me that she would like to be there. Unfortunately, as she reminded me, the appointment coincides with her weekly yoga class, which she has been attending for 20 years. I explained that the boutique had me on a waiting list and I did not choose the appointment time, but she feels that I didn't push them hard enough. I phoned the boutique back, and they said that I could either go back on the waiting list or I could attend, that this was their only available appointment, so I confirmed that I would attend. I phoned my mum back to let her know, and she again declined, saying that I should know the time of the class after 20 years. So, I invited my soon-to-be mother-in-law, female 58, in my mum's place. This has caused a rift, with my parents saying that I am excluding my mum from a special experience and showing my true colours, while my fiancé and future in-laws feel that I gave my mum first choice and it was her decision to decline. As of right now, my parents have said that they will not attend the wedding. I am honestly at a crossroads. I'm so grateful that my mother-in-law can attend and we can share something special, but I would hate for my parents to miss my wedding because they feel so excluded. My mum has told me that she will use this experience as an indicator for how I will behave for the rest of my life, and that she is clearly lower down on the priority list than my future in-laws. She has also said that she feels I vindictively chose the appointment time to purposefully exclude her. Am I the asshole for not trying harder to include my mum in a special mother-daughter moment? And now in the comments, she couldn't skip her class one time? Not the asshole. What a bratty thing to do. You did explain that you were on the waiting list and was only able to get the appointment because someone else cancelled, right? She chose a yoga class over going with you, which shows you how high of a priority you were. You can shove that in her face if she continues to complain. Edit, imagine causing all this drama over nothing. Exactly. It's a yoga class, not surgery. OP's mum could skip it one time if attending wedding dress shopping was that important for her to attend. Just imagine being so egocentric that one chooses yoga over one's daughter. That truly shows priorities. That's the worst part. The mother is crying that she's lower down on the priority list than her future in-laws when she's not. She was asked first. What is lower down on the priority list is her own daughter. She's putting her own daughter lower on the priority list than a single hour-long yoga class. Please, OP, if she starts whining about seeing where your true priorities are again, I hope that you are able to point out to all involved that she also seems to have priorities, which is what kicked this whole conflict off. Your mum might be too far down in her own selfishness to see it, but maybe the rest of your family will notice the hypocrisy. Not the asshole. I'm so sorry that your mum is behaving like this about her absolutely childish refusal to miss a 1 in 1,000 yoga class. Please go to the appointment with your mother-in-law. Invite your mum to the fittings. If your parents follow through on the threat to skip your wedding, it says more about them than you. Remember, you are building a new family with your husband and focus on that joy. Sending you hugs. And OP says, thank you for your lovely comment. I know how hard it is. My sister is my family member who throws drama into everything. It's exhausting until you just let go, and then it's so much better. Just try and remind yourself this is a her problem, not a you problem. And I read your story to my husband, and he said that your mum is definitely not a good yogi and needs to learn a bit more about it. And now on to the update. Thank you to everyone who offered some perspective on my original post. The strength of strangers and the support from my new family has been so lovely. The morning of the appointment, my mother-in-law and I were dropped off to a bridal boutique by my fiancé. To my surprise, my mum had skipped her yoga class and was waiting for us. My mum told me that she is still happy to attend the appointment despite everything that I have put her through, and told my mother-in-law that she was free to leave. My mum also announced that she will be paying for any dress that I choose to signify her importance as the mother of the bride. Before I could even open my mouth to respond, my fiancé was telling my mum that she was not welcome at the appointment and that we did not need her money. I stepped in and told my mum that she rejected 2 invitations to attend, and that her own actions had caused all of her stress. I also said that I will be trying on dresses with my mother-in-law because she has acted more like a mother to me than my mum ever has. My mum put up quite a fight, but my fiancé made sure that she left before leaving himself. After a few tears, I had a wonderful time with my mother-in-law. I have since learned that my mother-in-law was raised in an emotionally abusive home, so she is very understanding. Unfortunately, I was not able to find a dress at the boutique, but I no longer need one because my fiancé and I have decided to get married in court with my in-laws as witnesses. My mother-in-law has offered her wedding dress for the occasion. Apparently she wanted to offer it sooner, but ironically, did not want to step on my mum's toes. We have been able to recover the deposits from most of our vendors and told all the guests that we decided on a smaller wedding instead. Everyone has been very understanding, aside from my mum. She insists that she had always intended on going bridal shopping with me and had told me that she had a conflicting schedule because she wanted to surprise me on the day. My mum says that she only became upset when I invited someone else along before confirming that she could make it. My mum is, as far as I'm aware, trying to have me kicked out of the family by spreading the story that all of my behavior has been a vindictive plot against her. Thankfully, everyone still seems to be quite happy to include me. The truth is, my mum has always guilt-tripped me and emotionally blackmailed me. But it has taken me a long time to recognize that most families don't operate like mine. To be honest, I am tired of it all. For now, I have my wonderful fiancé, who has been so supportive, and his family, who I love. My parents have been officially told that they are not welcome at the wedding, and I haven't heard much from them since. I don't think that they ever expected me to recognize their behavior and stand up for myself. I would also like to answer some common questions. Where is my dad in all of this? My dad has always unconditionally supported my mum and will only really step in if he feels that I am disrespecting her. Other than that, he doesn't contribute much. Will I share a photo of the dress? For privacy reasons, I would prefer not to, but it's a very typical 1982 wedding dress with lace and puffy sleeves. We are having it altered so that it's more in line with a small courthouse wedding. At its heart, underneath all of the frills, my mother-in-law had great taste, and the dress fits like a glove. My fiancé says that it was meant to be. And are my fiancé and I still going to get married at the end of the year? We are currently looking at available dates in court and are thinking about August. The wedding was initially only planned for the end of the year because that was what most vendors had available. And now in the comments, wow, I read your original post. She couldn't break away from her yoga after you explained and then told you they weren't coming. Good for you for standing up. That is crazy. A no-brainer. You miss the yoga class. You did the right thing. She had the nerve to say that that's how you will be for the rest of your life. Good on you for standing up for yourself. And OP says, thank you for your comment. I won't lie and say that it was easy telling my mum that she was not welcome, and I still feel incredibly guilty for hurting her feelings, but I know that setting up healthy boundaries will not be an easy or fun process. The big turning point for me was when my fiancé said that he didn't want our future children exposed to my parents, and I realized that I didn't either. Parents are the best at guilt trips because they installed the buttons they push to cause them. Ignore that guilt. It is not yours, it's hers. She is programmed into you to keep you under her control. Very excited to hear the end of this. Good for you and your kind fiancé and his mother to rally up together and make the best changes possible for your future. Enjoy the less stress of these new plans. And OP says, thank you. Unfortunately, it's not at all what I wanted, but my new therapist tells me that I can't control their actions or take responsibility for their emotions. I'm looking forward to my court date. Your husband and mother-in-law sound like wonderful and supportive people. I hope you all have a blessed lifetime together. Congratulations on your nuptials. Am I the asshole for refusing to forgive my cousin after she tried to get with my boyfriend? I, 18 male, have been with my boyfriend, 18 male, since May of 2019. We are both bisexual. Last year, when everything started to shut down, my parents offered to let my cousin, Amy, 18 female, stay with us as she is immunocompromised, and her parents are both doctors, where mine are both able to work from home. Everything was fine for a while, and we mostly kept to ourselves, did our schoolwork, and spent time online with our friends. A few weeks in, I was sat in the kitchen on FaceTime with my boyfriend. Usually, I would have done this in my bedroom, but my dad's office is next to my room, and he was on an important work call. She came in to get something, and must have glanced over my shoulder and seen him. When I had ended the call, she asked who he was. I told her he was my boyfriend, and she just made the comment that he was cute. At the time, it didn't seem like it was going to be a big deal. But after that, whenever I tried to have a call with my friends, or my boyfriend, she would try to come into my room. She tried to play it off as wanting to ask me a question, but it was happening too often, and she would keep asking, "Don't I get to say hi?" Which I found odd. We go to different schools, and she had never met my friends or shown any interest in them before this point. And if my phone rang while we were in the same room, she would always ask if it was the cute boyfriend. And she started making comments about how she wished that she had met him first. I asked her to stop, as it was making me feel uncomfortable. It got worse. She found him on Facebook and started sending flirty and sexual messages to him. He blocked her, and she made a second account and continued until he blocked her again. She then got into my phone and found his number and started texting and calling him. She would leave voicemails, and it was always about how good she would be as his girlfriend and how he should leave me for her, and everything that she would do for him. She even sent him nudes, and he blocked her number. I told my parents what she was doing and showed them the proof, and they told her that she had to leave because she was making me so uncomfortable. I've not spoken to her since. My extended family are now trying to make plans for this summer, hoping everyone can get together. And I'm refusing to go to anything she's at because I feel she would just try again. Everyone except my parents are telling me that I'm ruining the plans just to be spiteful, as she has apologized. Which was just a half-assed sorry when she realized my parents were serious about her going back home. I feel like an asshole, because it means we can't have any family plans, and I'm essentially making everyone choose between us. But I don't want to be around her if she's going to keep making me uncomfortable. Edit 1, my boyfriend didn't want to involve the police or anything. 2, the nudes were deleted. And 3, my parents are likely to go even if I don't. They support me in my choice not to go. And edit 2, we have arranged a family Zoom call for next weekend, and I've said I want to be able to say my piece before anything else. I plan to lay everything out, telling everyone exactly what she did. It should be interesting. If I remember, I will update with what happens. And now in the comments, not the asshole. Would it do any good to email screenshots of all the messages and photos after censoring them to every relative that complained? She didn't just flirt, she stalked and sexually harassed your boyfriend. It's not any less bad because she's a woman and he's a man. I don't know about a judgment here. She deliberately went after your boyfriend. There apparently wasn't alcohol involved, and this wasn't one-time stupidity. Her apology was apparently family mandated and not sincere. If you can't ever be in the same space as her again, that's up to you. Your parents will be collateral damage, and that is unavoidable. They will probably choose you when push comes to shove, and that means that they'll have to see the other relatives off holiday. This is all her fault, not yours. If you have grandparents, they are even more stuck in the middle because they have equal devotion to the both of you. They may now have to alternate holidays with you guys and her family. Your extended family want things back to normal. At least enough to have everyone in the same room again. You likely won't ever be close buddies with your cousin again, as I'm sure your parents do too. That can only happen if they insist that she get real help for what she did. Sending her cousin's boyfriend nude pictures is a red flag that she is disturbed. If she's that off, you also have an obligation to protect any significant other from her. Can't you just ignore her? I mean, attending a meetup where she's also present isn't the same as forgiving her. And OP says, ignoring her wouldn't be easy, because our grandparents are always pushing for us to always be together at any family stuff. Our Nan has a bit of an obsession with wanting us to be best friends because we are the same age. I'm only 4 days older than her. And then the responsibility to make amends would be on me, because they would want me to forgive her to be friends again to make everyone happy, even if she doesn't apologize. And now on to the update. Taking some advice from the original post, I decided to speak to my family altogether. We had a group Zoom call on Saturday. It was interesting to say the least. On the call, it was me and my parents, my cousin Amy and her parents, my grandparents, and my other 2 aunts. It was the first time seeing my cousin since my parents sent her back to her parents last year. Even just seeing her on the screen made me feel uncomfortable. I laid out everything she did. I told everyone about the messages she sent my boyfriend, the voicemails she left, and I told them about the nudes. I didn't go into a lot of detail about them, but I gave a basic description so they could understand how indecent the pictures were. Amy was pissed. I hadn't even finished speaking, and she was screaming at me. She was swearing and insulting me a lot, and used the F slur a number of times. A lot of it boiled down to me being a horrible person spreading lies about her. I asked if anyone wanted to see screenshots of the messages she had been sending my boyfriend. She launched into saying they must have been faked. After she had calmed down, I said to everyone that this is why I was uncomfortable about being around her. She had invaded my privacy and harassed my boyfriend, and she had never apologized or shown any remorse. My nan started telling me that I should just forgive her to make it easier for everyone. I said that I needed a real apology to both me and my boyfriend before I could even think about forgiving her, especially as she is still acting like she did nothing wrong. My nan and my aunts then started tearing into me, saying that I was tearing the family apart over nothing. My mum then cut in and said that Amy was lucky that my boyfriend didn't decide to go to the police after everything she did. She also said that if everyone thinks that I am at fault for not forgiving her, rather than her being at fault for what she did, maybe we needed to have some time where we are not in contact. This didn't go over well with my nan, but my mum stuck by it. It is not the outcome that I wanted, but maybe being no contact with that part of the family might give me time to move forward from what happened. And now in the comments, I'm happy your mum stood up for you and you were able to explain everything to everyone. It's sad how some of your family members reacted, not including the cousin, but hopefully they will come around with time, and if you want to, the relationship can be rebuilt. Wow, your family are crazy for defending your cousin. I would go no contact too. So after you reveal everything that your cousin did to your boyfriend with proof, they just said, just forgive and forget. Hell no. If I was in your boyfriend's shoes, I would report everything she did to the police. I'm glad your mum stood by with what she said. Good on OP's mum here, but goddamn, what a shitty family to still be trying to pressure OP into letting it go after the cousin throws a bunch of slurs around during the group Zoom call that they are all in. Right? I have a horrible family, and they would not say that word in a group setting. They are unequivocally the worst, and I am glad that I am no contact with most. I would bet that there is some homophobia involved with the family siding against him when it's pretty freaking obvious that the cousin was the one being inappropriate. Gross. I think the family devalues OP's same-sex relationship, so cousin's harassment is not so bad as interfering in a real relationship would be. Props to mum for calling out the BS and dropping the rope. Our next post is titled, I, 22 male, got a girlfriend, and my gay best friend, 22 male, stopped talking to me. So I'm a bisexual guy, and my friend Steve, whom I've known for 10 plus years, is gay. We come from conservative families, so we didn't even know the concept of queerness when we were young. Steve and I were inseparable throughout our teenage years, and people joked that we were like brothers. We managed to get into the same college and moved to a big city when we were 17 years old. This exposed us to a completely different world, and Steve realized that he was gay. I realized that I too was attracted to men. Not knowing anything about the queer stuff, I thought I was gay too. Steve and I found other queer people, and our new friend circle was made of gay people. We couldn't tell our families that we were queer, so Steve and I could only depend on each other. We started dating men, but our initial relationships weren't very serious. After my first gay relationship ended, I realized that I was attracted to both men and women. I was bisexual. I told this to my group of queer friends who said that I was going through a phase, that years of brainwashing was the reason that I was attracted to women, that I would get over it, and they told me that I was gay. Steve refused to accept that I was bisexual and told me that bisexuality wasn't real. I tried to convince him, but he refused to accept that I wasn't gay. We were roommates, and this started causing a lot of tension between us. I decided to let it go and stopped trying to convince him. Things went back to normal, and I had 2 more gay relationships. Steve got into a serious relationship with a senior, and our families didn't know anything about this. Then I met my current girlfriend, Mary, at a bar. Mary and I hit it off immediately. We exchanged numbers and kept talking for a week before I invited her to our flat. I introduced her to Steve, and Mary and I went into my room. When she was leaving, I noticed that Steve was glaring at her. I didn't think much about this. Mary and I started meeting more often, and Steve refused to talk to her. I decided to ask him about it, and he told me that Mary was not good for me and asked me why I was being so close to a woman. I asked him what he meant by that, and he just stormed off. Steve started fighting me about trivial things that didn't matter before. Mary and I made our relationship official a few weeks later, and I posted about it on my story. When I got back to our flat, Steve and a few friends were waiting for me. Steve started shouting at me, asking how I could betray him. He told me that I turned my back on him, and he called Mary a witch. I reminded him that I was bisexual, and assured him that I wasn't leaving him. Our friends took Steve's side and asked me why I started dating a woman. They agreed with Steve that Mary bewitched me. I left our flat, and when I came back later, Steve refused to talk to me and told me that he wouldn't talk to me as long as I was in a relationship with Mary. I hoped that this would blow over, but Steve refuses to talk to me a month later. I really like Mary, and I don't want to end our relationship, but Steve needs my support, and nobody back home knows anything about us being queer. We would most probably be disowned if they found out. How do I handle this situation? Edit. I don't want to leave him because he has nobody else to support him. When he comes out to his family, I'm sure that it'll be ugly, and I want to be there for him when that happens. Now in the comments, notice how he said, "How could you betray him?" He's acting like a jilted lover. He probably has feelings for you beyond friendship and was secretly hoping that you would get together someday. As others have said, both he and your other friends are entitled, childish, and toxic. Even if Mary was not in the picture, you would be far better off without them. They are taking the view that you taking an interest in a female is invalidating their sexual orientation. Only people with severely effed up worldviews project their own insecurities onto their friends. Ignore them. Do not bother to interact with them. Make arrangements to move away from them. Not in with Mary, it's too soon for that, and would probably frighten her to death if you suggest it at this early stage. Keeping them in your life will be entirely to its detriment. My first instinct too was believing Steve likes OP, just from reading the title. But knowing they come from similar backgrounds, I think Steve's feelings of betrayal stems from the feeling that since OP is now in a relationship with a woman, he won't need to come out to his family, hence feeling alone and betrayed. However, bisexuality isn't real? Yeah, dump these friends. I feel like this is more a valid possibility, especially since they were really good friends first. I'm gay. Your friends are not good people. Yelling at you? Passive-aggressive tantrums? Sorry, no. Find better friends. Tell them they are total bigots and you cannot believe how hateful they are being. Good luck, dude. This OP, it's time for you to get angry. Bi erasure is a huge problem, and it's just as problematic as internalized homophobia. You have the right to love whom you love, and true friends wouldn't deny you that simply because they feel it threatens their own identity. Hint, it doesn't. Sit him down one more time, but this time, be firm and allow your anger to show. Tell him that he is being discriminatory and bigoted. Do a little research in advance and print out some articles to hand to him, and you're going to have to educate yourself and him. explain to him why bi erasure is wrong, and also why you are still queer even though you were dating a woman. Bi is still queer. Then put your foot down and tell him that if he can't accept you for who and what you are, then your friendship will end and you will move out. Wanting to be there for him is great, but why does he get to not be there for you? And now, onto the update. So after I posted on Reddit, I decided to tell Mary about Steve not talking to me. She was extremely supportive and told me that she would support me in anything that I decided to do. Some people asked if Mary knew about my gay relationships. I told her about my earlier relationships and me being bisexual in our first date, and she was okay with it. I did not know biphobia was a thing until the comments told me about it yesterday. I assumed that everyone in the LGBT community supported each other, and I thought I was doing something wrong. As many people suggested, I decided to cut off my toxic friend circle, and I won't be talking to them in the future. A comment about the relationship between Steve and I being codependent made me think of our friendship. I realized that we were depending on each other too much. We were the only connection to home left for each other, and this made us way too dependent on each other. I felt like we needed space from each other. I decided to move out, and when I told Steve about this, he started crying and begging me not to leave. He said that he would talk to me and that he would tolerate Mary. I told him that we were being codependent, and he wouldn't need to tolerate me if he didn't like my choices. I told him that I would be there for him when he decides to come out, and that he could always count on my support. Steve kept crying, but I told him my decision was final. I went back to my room, called Mary, and started crying. I did not want to leave my friend alone. She listened to what I had to say and reassured me. I had to look for a new place to live, but Mary called me a few hours later and told me that one of her friends has a room and that I could move in with him. I thanked her for her help. Steve's friends started calling and yelling at me for abandoning them for a girl. They accused me of being a bad friend and accused Mary of breaking up our friendship. When I called Mary later, she told me that my friends were calling her and shouting at her for breaking up my friendships. I apologized, but she was very understanding and told me that she would be there for me if I needed her. Hearing her say that made me feel better. I'm moving out, putting some distance between Steve and I, and blocking my earlier friends. This ordeal has made me understand that I made the right decision by sticking with Mary, and I appreciate her way more now. Lots of you mentioned that Steve might have feelings for me. I have only ever thought of him as a friend, and I might have given it a shot before, but now I'm afraid of a romantic relationship with him. Thank you to all the people who gave me advice and helped me decide. And now in the comments, damn, Mary sounds like an absolute saint. I am glad that she is so understanding and isn't blaming you in any way for the abuse that she's getting. Steve's friends sound like a nightmare. From their initial bi erasure to them harassing someone for being in a happy relationship? Cutting them out was definitely the right move. I'm sorry your friendship with Steve has suffered so much from the fallout. Hopefully he'll come to his senses eventually. The term bi erasure summed up my life for a long time, 45. I married a man to hide my bisexuality. When we separated, I only dated men. It wasn't until I finally started dating women did I realize ease with myself. It is still very hard to be open because of this, and I'm relieved to know that it's common. One thing to be clear, you didn't abandon Steve for Mary. You would have gladly stayed in Steve's life if he hadn't been acting so miserably bad towards you and Mary. You were leaving because Steve is acting like an asshole when you have only offered support. His offer to tolerate Mary is also ridiculous, and I hope he's going to realize that. It is sad that it came to this, but sometimes the best thing to do for yourself is to leave a friendship behind when they aren't treating you well. I don't understand people who are biphobic. They accept that people can be attracted to their own gender, they accept that people can be attracted to the opposite gender, but for some reason, both at the same time? Completely impossible. Make it make sense. I'm bi, and there is also a lot of stigma, like gold star, which is gay and lesbian person who has never been with the opposite sex. They look down on those who have. Whether it was because they were in denial of their sexuality or a bi, it doesn't matter to a gold star, and they will straight up refuse to have anything to do with bi people. We are also stereotyped as tramps and serial cheaters or fetishized, and people try to push us into group sex. Well, you like both, so I thought you'd be into a threesome. Just because I'm attracted to both sexes doesn't mean that I'm not into having a monogamous relationship. It used to get so disappointing when I'd start a relationship with a guy and they would start trying to bring up threesomes with another woman as a fantasy of theirs. I have always, and will continue, to always block unicorn hunters on dating sites. I'm not your sex toy. I'm a real person with real feelings. I understand that it works for some people, but I do not personally know anyone who has had this experience go well. No thanks. Sidebar, Mary is a keeper, 100%. A lot of people would have run from all that drama. My wife made me choose between a vasectomy or no sex. I chose no sex and now she's mad. My wife and I have been married for 7 years and have a 3-year-old daughter. We both agreed that we only wanted one child, so we are good. She recently told me to get a vasectomy because we weren't going to have any kids anymore and she wanted to stop taking birth control. She told me that her friend's husband got one and that they are having a good experience with it. I told her that I get that she wants to stop taking birth control and I fully support her decision, but that I will never get a vasectomy because I don't feel comfortable getting one and I will not alter my body if it isn't necessary and that I will never change my mind about this. I suggested that I can just wear a condom like I used to when we first started our relationship, so she doesn't need to take any form of birth control and we can continue our sex life. She basically got mad at me over this, and even told me that if I don't get a vasectomy, we will not have sex anymore. I made it clear that I'm willing to wear a condom every time, so there isn't a problem. She told me that I'm either getting a vasectomy or we aren't having sex anymore. I like having sex, but I'm not some desperate loser who is going to beg for it and do something that he doesn't want just for sex. So I told her that I guess we aren't having sex anymore. This was 2 months ago. It's unfortunate that we aren't having sex anymore, but it's not like my life depends on it, so at the end of the day, I'm good. My wife, on the other hand, is not taking it so well. A couple of days ago, she got mad at me for not wanting to have sex with her, and that I think my seed is more important than our sex life. She also said a bunch of other things to try and tell me to get a vasectomy. But just like before, I told her no, and I made it clear to her that I'm willing to wear a condom. Again, it is unfortunate that we aren't having sex, but at the end of the day, I'm good. I don't want this stupid fight to lead to anything more, and want a healthy way to deal with this. How could I make it clear to my wife that she is making a big deal out of this for no reason? Something like, this shouldn't be a big deal for us because we have gone through so much more. Edit, I like how some people have worded this. My body, my choice. And now in the comments, I wish all the people would quit picking on the OP. Why is it so hard to understand his seed is so much more important than his relationship with his wife? He will never be able to father a child ever again. You know how hard that is on a man to not be able to become a father again when they are not planning to? Yes, he is in his late 30s and not planning on having any more children, but still, he will not be able to if he changed his mind. Say if his wife changed her mind and wants another child, what would they do then? If this ever happens, she's going to be grateful for the wise decision her husband made about putting his seed above them having a sex life. I feel like the best approach would be you guys just need to talk about what your reasons are for your stance. Why is she so against condoms? There may have been a reason you guys stopped using them previously and then switched to a hormonal method. Did she have a sensitivity or allergy? Or is it just personal preference? Same with your vasectomy. Are there particular reasons why you don't want to get one? It is your body and your choice, but worth explaining to her why you were against it. Ultimately, if neither of you are willing to concede, then you are probably going to have to separate. Sex is an important part of most relationships, so you are going to have to decide between what is most important, both being adamant about your views and probably separating, or one of you taking one for the team and saving your marriage. This, though, it really is your body, your choice, for both of you here. But you are both going to have to accept that this may be a marriage-ruining impasse, if so. Neither of you want more kids, and don't want to have sex without some form of birth control. The only form of birth control she will accept is the one that you won't accept. You have a right to not alter your body, she has a right to not alter hers, or to continue using hormonal birth control. But it is a fundamental, sex-ending, and therefore likely marriage-ending, impasse, without a solution unless one of you caves completely, because it doesn't seem like there is a middle ground solution. I also think she's feeling a bit resentful because she put her body through changes and side effects for years for both of your pleasure. Hormonal birth control are no joke. And when it comes to her asking you to put your body through a change, you are not willing to compromise. I also think, by the way OP is talking about it, there is very little empathy towards her, and maybe why she is making that choice. You guys need to remember you are a team and talk this out. I understand both sides here. I don't trust condoms. They rely on perfect use, and my preference has always been to use condoms with birth control pills. Birth control pills always have a ton of side effects for me, so I understand at some point throwing my hands up about them and just being over it. She doesn't want more children. OP agrees, there is no pill-type solution for men, which is a damn shame since the research into men's options was only stopped because of the side effects, which were the same side effects women's options have, and I can't understand that. So that leaves a vasectomy, which you don't want for reasons. There is no solution here, so no sex. If you don't want a vasectomy, you don't want one. That's fine. I can't fault her rationale here though. I didn't demand my husband get a vasectomy because a tubal was much more invasive, but I did ask him to after our child, and he agreed to. He was down for one day and recovered no issues. We aren't worried about reversal though. I'm not saying there is no possibility of issues though, it is still outpatient surgery. And now onto the update. Since the last time, a lot has changed. Like a lot of you suggested, I started to communicate honestly and open with my wife about everything. We heard each other's concerns out and were able to understand each other better. This already cleared up a lot of the tension we have been having over the past few months. We also had our first session of marriage counseling, and this cleared a lot of things up for us. Our counselor basically explained that when we both have sex, whether that is with protection or not, we have to accept the fact that there will always be a risk of pregnancy, and if we want to completely eliminate this risk by undergoing a surgical procedure, that this is a personal matter that we have to decide for ourselves, and we can't push on our partner. This also cleared a lot of the tension between my wife and I. We even started having sex again using a condom because we both felt comfortable with it and it was great. We also discussed different options of contraception, and we are looking into more the use of a copper IUD since this does not contain hormones and doesn't affect the act itself. But for now, we both feel comfortable using condoms and might just stick to it. My wife even said she might look into getting tubal ligation, and I'll support any decision she decides to make. All in all, things seem to get better, and we will both keep working on our marriage. As someone who has a copper IUD and loves it more than basically anything else I own, I'll be the first to tell you that it absolutely does affect the act itself, as well as every period she has for the rest of her life. Also, I hope she decides on neither. Both will be far more traumatic than a vasectomy. I know it's just one person's anecdote, but getting a vasectomy was the best decision I ever made after we had our second. Had the initial consult, procedure in the office was a couple hours from arrival to departure, followed by maybe 24 to 36 hours of ice packs and a few verification tests weeks later. Ever since, not a single problem. Even made getting inguinal hernia surgery a few years later far easier because the surgeon didn't have to safeguard the spermatic cord in the same area as my hernia. Yes, it's your body and your choice, but it also has an impact on the marriage. If your wife is considering tubal ligation instead, I feel sorry for her. That's abdominal surgery, even when done laparoscopically. She's going to be laid up for at least a week, and depending on how her healing progresses, could be as much as 3 weeks. Hope you're ready to take over 100% of the household duties while she heals to help maximize her recovery. And our next story is titled, Me, 26 female, with my daughter, 4 female, mother, 30 ? Female, at her kindergarten brainwashing her. So I don't even know what title to put to this. It is completely absurd. I am a working mother of an adorable 4-year-old girl, Katie, have a really good job which I landed straight after uni. My partner and her father, let's call him Jay, is completing his PhD. Due to our workload, our little one is going to a small kindergarten near our place. One day my daughter came up to me for cuddles after work and asked, "Mummy, when are you going to stop working?" I assumed she meant when I'm taking my summer holidays off, and I told her in a few months so we can visit Grandma and Grandpa. After further discussion, I realized she meant, when am I quitting my job permanently? I asked her what made her think so, and she said, because mummies are for home, daddies are for work. I was dumbfounded and asked her where she heard this. I was pretty upset as that was the opposite of what I want to teach my kid, and she definitely did not hear this from my partner or myself. Visibly upset, I asked her how did this occur to her, but got no answer from her. I went the next day at school and asked the teacher whether such discussions have been made in class. She said no, and I went on my way. On the next few days, my daughter became more distant and started saying that I am not a good mummy and that she doesn't like how Daddy or Anna, her babysitter, pick her up from care. I am the one who drops her off, and in general, complaining mostly about me having to work. I sat her down again calmly and asked her what's going on. Those things have never been a problem before in my family, and she seemed to enjoy her after-school time with Dad or babysitter. Again, she didn't say anything and just asked me when she can go play with her new friend from daycare, May. Being at my rope's end, I asked my pedo-psychologist friend to sit down and have a chat with my daughter and see where the problem lies. Lo and behold, May's mum, who had been supervising their playtimes a couple of times, and at whose place my daughter has been, was making digs about me being a working mother. May's mom, Jen, is a homemaker while her husband works in the banking sector. She seemed quite pleasant, and I've been around their place a couple of times before, accompanying my daughter. Due to this, I trusted her to supervise my kid and have her at her place. I should mention that she has been insisting that my partner and I visit her place more often, but with a job, a PhD, and a kid, it's impossible. Anyway, from what my friend told me, the drilling has been going on for a couple of months, and Katie told her that her mum's friend always does all those nice things, and asks her if she likes that she is always home making all those nice things, and making herself pretty. Like, really? I cannot even believe I'm typing these things. I cannot believe this is happening. I haven't confronted Jen yet, but I think I should. What do I say? I don't want my daughter to lose her friend due to her crazy mum, but for now, these two haven't been hanging out much outside of daycare. My daughter is still pissy and complains at her dad and Anna when they come to pick her up every single day. And now in the comments, because you haven't spoken directly yet to May's mum, I would bring it up in conversation with her that you have heard these comments from your daughter and kindly ask that she stop. Say that you are not comfortable with your daughter hearing this. However, it is already affecting your relationship with your daughter, and that is huge. I know you are wanting your daughter to continue the friendship, so the only way may be allowing them to play at your house or other people's houses. Be direct. Even the cost of a friendship that you may not choose to continue, you need to let Jen know that this is not okay. Intimidate her and shame her for thinking these comments were even remotely acceptable towards a child. Children are impressionable, and she's taking advantage of the trust that you put in her. And OP says, I've been thinking about the two little ones playing at ours, but so far I've been avoiding Jen, hence I'd like to find a good way of talking to her. Don't listen to me, non-parent child-free male. I'd slap the crap out of someone doing this kind of crap. The first 6 or so years are so important for development, and to just throw some backwards-ass 1950s crap at your kid without your permission, I would be beyond pissed. It is very understandable that you do not want your daughter to lose her friend, but at the same time, your daughter is becoming more and more distant to you. What is actually more concerning is that your child holds the opinion of May's mum higher to yours? It seems like there is a communication breakdown here. First of all, let me just say that I am not blaming you or questioning your parenting skills, and if it comes off that way, then I apologize. However, as infuriated as you are with May's mum, you should focus more on strengthening that bond between yourself and your daughter because that is more important here. She should hold your opinion higher to May's mum, so perhaps you can speak with the child psychologist on tips on how you can strengthen your bond. And OP replies, "Hey, thanks for your input. I think I left a crucial part out of the post. I'm already in collaboration with my psychologist friend on how to approach my daughter, and I've spent the weekend bonding with her, something I've planned before the events. Both my partner and I are active in her upbringing. We even try to involve her into our jobs and make her excited about things. I work in public engagement and have been actively collaborating with her school for the organization of certain activities with the kids, for example, on top of having her help me organize certain activities. My main concern was that she went from my biggest fan and the biggest fan of my work to I don't like you working. And it hurts me because I've put a lot of effort into finding a balance in our lives. Point is that I don't want to forbid my daughter from seeing her friend, who is lovely by the way, rather than win certain respect in her mum's eyes. I messed up my post, I guess. Sorry." And they replied that, quote, "I don't want to forbid my daughter from seeing her friend. You may not want this, but it's what you should do. Your daughter would feel happier inside if she wasn't getting conflicting information. That stuff is very confusing to a child. If you want her happy, you should cut the friend out while your home values are reinforced. I can see no benefit to exposing your daughter to a tug-of-war of ideals. She is 4. The friend won't be the biggest loss." And now onto the update. I posted a few weeks ago about a mother in my daughter's kindergarten that made comments about her stay-at-home mums being better than working mums. Nothing could prepare me for what followed. One thing that I'd like to clarify from all the comments I received was that I am not an absentee from my daughter's life. Despite being a working mother, I am as involved as it gets. Katie has spent as many times at Jen's as May has spent at ours. I've been playing with the girls quite often when they're about, and took them to the park, museums, etc., but this isn't the point. On the Katie frontier, our relationship has made a full recovery, and we are a strong unit again. I am so happy to have my daughter back, and we enjoy our moments together. She has even been asking to come to the office again, and to take her to our next outreach event. So the day after I made this post, Jay goes to pick up Katie from kindergarten, and our favorite mum is there. She asks whether Katie wants to come over and to play, and her and my partner can grab a coffee in the meantime. Jay declines, but she insists. Finally, the girls come out. Then Jen asks the girls whether they want to go play. Both of the little ones agree enthusiastically. Jay has to be the bad cop and say another time because of other plans. He said he thought of letting Jen know why, but he's very non-confrontational. Couple of days go by, and Anna has been doing the kindergarten run, due to Jay running experiments late. Jen asks again for a playdate, and Anna knows to say no. Weekend comes, and Jay gets a text from Jen asking if he's busy, and maybe he could bring Katie over. Jay replied that we want some time with our daughter for the weekend as a family. No reply. In the meantime, Katie had another session with my psychology friend. One of the things that got out is that Jen asks a lot about Daddy. I took the next few days off as Jay was working from home, and I decided it would be nice to spend some extra time as a family. Hence, duty of picking Kate up becomes mine. Jen is there, and I try to start some sort of conversation by politely saying hi. She just briefly turns at me, replies with hi, and turns her head again. That's completely uncharacteristic of her, but I suspect she realizes that we are avoiding any further playdates. I thought of asking if May could come over, but her cold manner discouraged me completely. She says bye-bye to Katie when we are leaving. Okay. A few days after I'm back from work, Katie comes back with 2 cupcakes. 2. One for me, one for Daddy, she explains. Anna said that Jen gave them to her at pickup time and explained who gets what. No cupcake for me. I started joining the dots at that point. We discussed with Jay her odd behavior, and we thought that the best idea was to ignore her, not even thank for the cupcakes, and have Anna pick Katie up from school. Jay is getting his final results for a publication, so he cannot do it from now on anyway. So Jen keeps texting and even calling Jay. Never me. I am an invisible working mother. Jay stops replying and picking up, until 2 days ago he did. He asked Jen what's the matter with the calls and texts. Jen starts with, "Oh, you know, May's missing her friend and has been pestering me the whole time. Only children need their friends, blah blah blah." Then my dear partner decides he has had enough, and he has a go at her. Properly. He starts off with how we don't appreciate her comments aimed towards me being a working mother, and that singling me out on various occasions is not okay at all. And then it started. After a while, Jay put her on loudspeaker so I could hear the spectacle. Jen starts saying how unfair it is for him that his woman cannot take care of him, and how she's trying to be sympathetic of him being stuck with a career cow who only cares about her job and not her man and child. Jay is flabbergasted, but he manages to reply that that is not the case and he's happy with all this, and he needs no sympathy. Thanks, but no thanks. He prefers other people to stay out of our business. Then she goes on about how our daughter is starved of motherly love and how she can see it in her eyes and that she's trying to be a mother figure for her. Jay again replies that he does not understand her motivation behind this and that what she is talking about is completely unfounded. By that point, she is on loudspeaker but didn't realize. She went on a tirade about how she and Jay would be perfect and understand each other. They have both been neglected by their career-starving spouses, and that she can tell from the way that he looks at her that he wants her too. She spent the next few minutes going on about all the signals were there, and how Katie and May are practically like sisters already, and that she knew they could make it all together and be happy. Jay and I were just looking at each other. I suspected that Jen had a crush on him after the cupcakes incident, but that was too much. Jay finally spoke and said that she was being absurd and that he would prefer that she stays away from our daughter and our family in general. I took my turn saying that I heard most of the conversation and I wanted her to delete our numbers and never bother us again. She said that Jay has been lying all this time to me and that they have been sleeping together. Alright. She then hung up. That was some crazy crap that we never saw coming. We both blocked her mobile and home number and decided to pull Katie from the kindergarten. She will be temporarily attending the daycare program at Jay's university. Our phones have been receiving some anonymous calls and texts from another number. We are unsure how to proceed on that. Anyway, that was some fatal attraction crap right here. I hope that this is all behind us. And now in the comments, holy crap, that escalated quickly. Good on you and Jay for acting in a calm and mature way. I would second the person who mentioned the restraining order if Jen continues to try to contact you guys. She is clearly a lot more insane than anyone suspected. I feel bad for her daughter. The kind of motherly love coming from a woman like that terrifies me. OP says, poor May indeed. We've been thinking a lot about her and her dad that have to deal with this woman. I'd probably work a lot more than usual too if I was married to her. Yikes. And OP says, true. It's just so sad. Wow. If she continues contact, you may want to pursue a restraining order. OP says, yeah, we thought about this in case she shows up at our place or something. For now, we decided not to make a deal out of it or tell her husband. We really don't want to get involved in her crazy. Oh my god, I was hoping you recorded that crap going down. Oh well, it might not be legal in some states for you to do that. What a plot twist. Jen was living in her little fantasy land and making all these delusions up just so she can spend time with Jay. I'm glad that you have 2 grown-ups in your family to see the truth of the situation. And OP says, I'm not from the States and I don't know how it works here. I'll look into it though. Huh. So she was completely projecting her feelings towards her husband onto you, and wanting your husband as a replacement. Did not see that coming at all. As the other poster said, you may need to pursue this legally if she keeps on harassing both of you. Remember to keep a hold of everything. Good luck with the crazy. And OP says, I don't think anybody saw that. But to use my own child as a vehicle for this, that's just vile. And yes, we will take further action if she doesn't stop. I just hope she does, and we can leave this whole thing behind us. Keep in mind that she may not just harass you, but may also start targeting your daughter. I know she's young, but try to keep your daughter somewhat aware of the situation. Crazy people will do crazy things no matter what age the victim is. And OP says, we are trying to keep Katie as out of it as possible. She asked why she cannot go to the old place anymore, and this is quite miffed because all her friends are there. She has only been at the new place for a few days, and she is making progress. I will discuss with my friend to find a good way of letting her know though. It's so annoying. We can't go to our favorite park, and she's losing all of her daycare friends. And now, on to our final update. So I posted these a few months ago, and given it all generated some interest, I decided to post the conclusion. In the end, things kind of solved themselves. After all the advice you guys gave me, I decided to speak with May's dad and tell him what happened before ordering a restraining order on Jen. We needed to look into that as well, as we are not US residents. The harassment continued for a couple of days, and it prompted me to write him an email. His work email was the only contact detail that I had. Turns out I didn't have to. 3 days after my post, May and her dad appeared on our doorstep. He was apologizing profusely before we said anything. We just sort of stood there. He appeared calm and composed, but you could tell he was quite distraught. Apparently, he knew that something was off for a while, and she has been mentioning Jay as an example father for a while. Lately, he noticed Jen getting out of bed in the middle of the night with her phone. She was indeed calling in the night sometimes, and being irritable in general. At first, he suspected an affair between her and Jay, and decided he should contact me. He snooped her phone, laptop, and found a second phone that he didn't know about, and started looking into things. When he saw all those messages, he decided to confront her, and all hell broke loose. They had a scream match where Jen was verbally attacking him with May present. Poor kid. She was also talking crap about me, about how awesome Jay would be, the whole shebang. At the end, she tried to physically assault him, in front of their kid, and that's when he grabbed May and left. He asked her to leave in 3 hours, or else he would call the cops on her. He then mentioned that Jen and himself had marital problems for a while. She was supposed to be a stay-at-home mom in order to raise their daughter, take care of their amazing place, and potentially expand their family. He comes from old money. He didn't say it that way, and he was happy that he found a woman to share his values with. Instead, he had to pay people to do most of the things around the house and have May in the kindergarten while Jen focused on her image. Expanding their family became soon out of the question, and she has been quite resentful and neurotic for a while. We laid out the timeline of events, and he took it calmly. He made sure no one was hurt and that Jen hadn't been around our place. She somehow hadn't, and asked whether we want to press charges. We mentioned the restraining order, and he said that it would be actually beneficial for everyone involved. He was very apologetic about us having to pull Katie out of the kindergarten and all the harassment that we sustained. He seemed to have learnt his lesson about being so absent from home. I forgot to mention that while he was at our place, Jay's phone blew up with texts and calls from a random number. The messages ranged from how Jay had ruined her life, to how her heartless husband left her and took their kid, and she needs support and somewhere to stay. What the actual hell? We set the motions for the restraining order the next day, and she stopped initiating any sort of contact. After a while, her now ex-husband called us to thank us for everything and give us a small update. The fact that Jen got a restraining order, on top of him having access to top lawyers and the whole assault incident, I assume, has granted him temporary custody of their daughter, and he hopes to make it permanent. He intends to move to a country near his parents, where May is for now. From what I have seen from him, I bet she will soon be educated in some of the best boarding schools around. As for Jen, it seems she won't get much custody of their daughter in the end. He didn't mention much about her, and I didn't want to hear about her either. My family is doing well. We have left all of those things behind us, but I'm willing to leave a door open for May and her father, and my partner is happy with that as well. We also have a new puppy. Anyway, thank you for all the advice again, r/relationships. My mum is pressuring me to add me as a third person on her $820,000 mortgage. I really don't want to, as my husband and I are looking to buy our own home. She states that doing this will build my credit for a new mortgage down the line. So my 25 female, mother, 60 female, and her boyfriend had a house in Ottawa which was a nice home. She has always hated the home for reasons that I think could have easily been renovated. Example, new shower tiles, new doors, or adding basic finishes to the basement. It was a new build at the time, 2017. I, as well as the mortgage advisor, advised against it, given that the new home she wanted went for $820K, and she still had quite a lot left on her mortgage. In the end, the bank pre-approved her and her boyfriend for $500K with the knowledge that the rest of the fees will be covered using the profit from her old home. Fast forward to now, she keeps asking me to come on as a third person, given that with my good job, and with a salary of over $65K, the pre-approval amount will be higher. The issue is, I am now married, and my husband and I are also saving up to buy a home in the next few years. She dismissed it, and said doing this with her will build my credit, and when I'm ready to buy a home, the bank will approve me, and she will definitely co-sign with us. Is this a thing? Because she went and told her mortgage advisor that I'm interested, but I don't think she gave her the details. Not only that, I'm pregnant and will be going on maternity leave, which means that it's not the time to think about things like this because I will technically be on employment insurance, which is exactly why my husband and I are waiting until I get back to work and he gains more seniority in his work. I'm at a loss on what to do because my mum has screwed me over for small amounts of money, so that alone I don't trust. But it's the fact that she's already telling the mortgage advisor I want in, and she is disregarding the fact that I'm married with her own grandkid on the way. However, she did state doing this will build my credit and it'll be easier to qualify for a new mortgage down the line with my husband. And now in the comments, no, the bank will see you as having a massive liability. This will make it much harder, as in the eyes of the bank, you will already be on the hook for a mortgage. And the fact that her mum didn't bother to get the facts and is lying to her and making her daughter's future worse so she can have a bigger house is a huge red flag. And OP replies, and that's the thing. I don't know if she genuinely doesn't know how this works, or if she's just lying to me and she does know. That's irrelevant. You expose yourself to immediate financial loss by doing this, loss of first-time homebuyer status. You also expose yourself to massive long-term risk. Your mother is 60. Assuming a 25-year term, is she going to work to age 85 to pay this off? If she decides she doesn't want to or cannot pay it anymore, you are on the hook. You are also exposed to family stress risk. You will be financially bound to your mother during the term of the loan. Anything she does to jeopardize repayment will be a big stressor for you. Opens a HELOC to buy a new car, extravagant vacation, things like that will cause you stress. On top of that, your borrowing power will be neutered. The bank will act as if that mortgage is yours. I had a situation where my father's car loan was accidentally under my name. We share the same name and address, and that almost screwed me out of approval for my mortgage if I couldn't prove that it was an error. You should not do this. You should talk to a mortgage broker, and if that broker misleads you into believing it is in your financial interest to do this, you should report them. And OP says, thank you. And yes, I made an appointment with her mortgage advisor to tell him I want no part, and tell him the truth that I think my mum did not tell him. And now, on to the update. So last week I posted what my mother was trying to do, which was have me co-sign her mortgage. Many people have asked for an update. Yesterday, I spoke with the mortgage advisor, who not only admitted that my mom was a difficult client, as she was trying to do the impossible by getting this mortgage, But he also revealed that the reason she needed me to co-sign the mortgage was because she did not want to listen to his recommendation, which was to return the car that she had leased, on which the maturity date is almost due, and to not finance a new car until she gets her mortgage funded, 2 months max. This is to ensure that she does not have too much debt and that her pre-approval amounts stay the same. Instead of doing that, she wanted me on the mortgage so she can increase the funding approval rate and get a new car financed. My husband and I were disgusted and shocked. The mortgage advisor was very honest and stated that if I get in on this, it will significantly reduce my borrowing power and I will be on the hook for years. He even joked and asked, "Would you like to stay stuck renting with the inability to borrow and a huge dip on your credit while she drives the newest fancy car and lives in a big home?" He told us not to do it and to think of our future. We're expecting a baby in the fall. To cut it short, most of you were right. She had no intention of helping me in the long run, and it was only to satisfy her needs while having no issues leaving my husband and baby and I on the hook for almost $1 million. I've confronted my mum, who has yet to answer my texts, and my husband has suggested that we cut contact with her. I wanted to take the time to thank all of you for your honest advice, and to the mortgage advisor who put reality before money. Shout out to that mortgage broker who had OP's back more than her own mother did. Yup, we were pleasantly surprised. Not all financial advisors are money hungry after all. Don't throw him under the bus though. He broke client confidentiality to cover for you. Oh, of course, I would never. Don't take financial advice from someone at 60 that is looking for co-signers on a mortgage, full stop. 60 with an $800K mortgage also? Good way to never retire. OP says, crying emojis, noted. I'm glad you got this sorted out when your mom was really pushing you and preying on your emotional state. But man, I went through a roller coaster just reading your first post. The lies were so blatant and the information so erroneous that I am so glad that agent had a moral compass and told you the truth point blank, because I'm telling you, this would have really screwed you over. No one in their right mind would think that this was a good idea, and your mum is vile for even attempting this. That sounds like something my mum would do. Not that she didn't try. I've always lived with my dad as she gave up on my custody, and when I started working this year, she expected me to give her part of my paycheck despite living with my dad and never going to her place. Hey, we have a similar mum. Mine sold her cabin, her second home, and complained she didn't have a good way to invest the money she made, about $200K. So she offered to loan it to me so I could buy a house that she wanted to use to vacation in anytime she wanted. So she told me where I should buy it, which is about 2 hours from where I work and live now, and she'd charge me only 6% interest. This is only a few years ago, so yeah, she wanted to charge me 2 to 3 times the going rate at the bank. Gee, thanks mom. Toxic mum high five. You gotta be a special kind of person to try and profit off your children, to be honest. Cough cough, every family YouTuber, cough cough. Unexposed is titled, Am I the asshole for being upset that my siblings are getting part of an inheritance, but I'm not because I'm a recovering addict? So my parents are pretty wealthy. I'm 26, and from 21 to 25, I was in and out of rehabs. I was abusing so many different kinds of drugs, and I wasted so much money. I OD'd once, and it destroyed my family to watch me go through that. I am intensely ashamed of who I was as a person, and I've been sober for almost a year. My parents are now approaching their late 60s, and have started finalizing their wills and inheritance. Yesterday, they sat me down and told me that I will not be getting any of the inheritance, as they don't trust me not to relapse with all that money suddenly in my possession, and as a result, my siblings will be getting my share of the money. I was pretty upset about this, and I said that they were going to make my siblings rich while I would get nothing from it, and that wasn't fair. I was almost yelling at this point. They told me to calm down, but I was too upset to listen, and I left. I called my brother and sister after I left and told them what my parents said, and they said that it was their choice and there wasn't anything they could do. I accused them of just wanting all the money for themselves and not caring about what happened to me. Today, I have my dad texting me that they're worried about me and disappointed in my behavior yesterday. I talked to my sponsor, and he said that while anger is understandable, I have to do everything in my power not to ruin the trust that I've built with my family over the past year, and acting like an asshole addict won't help. Sometimes I still have trouble with my reactions to things now that I'm sober, however, I don't feel as though I'm entirely unjustified here. Am I the asshole for getting upset? And now in the comments, you're the asshole because you probably spent your share of the inheritance every time they tried to help you. Seriously, add up every dollar they've spent on your addiction, or ask them to add it up, and then ask yourself if you deserve any more. Don't forget all the time and emotional labor that goes with all this. How many days off or vacations got sidelined? How many sleepless nights? Emotional/relationship damage caused by things said or done while OP was under the influence. OP, you took up way more than your fair share, and way more than the inheritance is even worth. And OP replies, that's a fair point. As a PS, if you stay sober, your parents will treat you more responsibly over time. 1 year is nothing in recovery. Maybe several years or more down the line, when you are living a respectable life and they see that their money will go into your house, education, or something else which you have built between now and then, they will reconsider. I think timing is a major factor here. And OP says, it feels like forever. Hey, I just want to say good for you for making it a year. Having said that, people are right. That's not a long time. I know someone who was an addict and they cleaned up their act for 9 years before relapsing worse than before. Luckily, he got clean again, but you really need time to make people trust you again. Maybe they never will, but sometimes that's what happens when you go through this. To the people who have watched you be an addict for multiple years, 1 year of sobriety is a mere blink of an eye. And OP says, I know, but it still feels like forever. It's not. You are still likely to be an addict again. What they are doing is smart. You're the asshole. Your parents are concerned for your life. Also, your parents are only 60-ish, so there's a good chance that they will be alive for at least 10 years. I believe USA life expectancy is north of 70. That leaves plenty of time to amend the will. You are only a year out of rehab, so your parents are just making plans for the way things are today. And to edit, just reread that as late 60s, but the point still remains. They have to plan based on today, not based on what it could be 10 years from now. And OP says, but the way things are now won't always be the case. First, congrats on nearly a year. That being said, you spent nearly 1/5 of your life in rehab. I wouldn't blame them for not trusting you yet, especially since I would bet that you were using before the rehab. I'm guessing your parents paid for that, not to mention all the attention that had to be put on you that could have gone to your siblings. Addicts are an Olympic-sized pool's drain on a family's mental health and finances. They worried about you, they made sure you were getting help, paid for it, and you repay them by going ballistic about that they won't treat you as if you did nothing wrong to them? And OP says, yeah, they did pay for it. I believe I saw that you said it'll be around $400,000, the inheritance. Going by a quick Google search, your parents could have easily gone through that in a 4-year rehab stint. You're the asshole. You're entitled to your feelings, but you are not entitled to their money. Your parents have every right to choose who they leave their money to. And OP says, I don't think I'm entitled, but I do think since they are giving it to my siblings too, that makes it unfair. Life is unfair. Your parents have legitimate concerns, and your sense of fairness doesn't get to overrule that. And now onto the update. My first post wasn't hugely popular, but I wanted to update anyways. After what happened with my parents, I won't lie, I relapsed. I had a weekend where I blacked out. I remember getting back to my apartment and all the drugs and booze I had bought was gone. And it was a Monday morning. It was a lot of stuff. I scared myself so much, I ended up calling my parents saying that they were right, and I remembered everyone's advice on my last post, and I apologized for how I treated them, and that they were right in not giving me any of the money. I'm now 3 weeks sober, and I took Reddit's advice and made a compromise with my parents in regards to my inheritance. If I remain at least 5 years sober and submit to a bi-monthly drug test, they will reconsider my part of the money. I hope they do reconsider. I know I have a lot of work to do, and I still have a lot of selfishness to overcome, but I wanted to thank everyone for helping me try to realize that. Here's to 3 weeks and more. And now in the comments, you are 3 weeks sober. You relapsed in the past and will likely again. It's pretty normal and expected to fall back when you enter group therapy and MAT therapy. They will talk about this with you. You can't and won't beat this alone. You need help, and it's okay to ask for it and use the services available to you. Millions of Americans have substance abuse problems. It's more common than you think, but there is only one legit solution. You can't expect your family to trust you after 3 weeks. You can't expect them to trust you ever again. It's fully up to them when they will bring that trust back, and you can't do anything about that. Get help. Join the addiction thread. Talk to an addiction doctor and get the ball rolling. They will help you with the withdrawal, family issues, and mental issues caused by the abuse, but most importantly, they will get to the core of your addiction so it can be properly addressed. Your parents owe you nothing. It seems like they already saved your life once and spent a lot of money doing it. Make your own money. Not everyone has rich parents. You should just appreciate their unconditional love. They worked hard their whole lives for their money. You are not entitled to it even if you were sober. Also, be sober for you, not for money. Abso-effing-lutely couldn't agree more. Being sober for money will kill you when the money comes. Addiction might take a break while you're sober, but will pick up where it left off and can sometimes pick up steam for lost ground if it gets traction. A sudden influx of money is almost always a destructive force if your foundation for sobriety is built on anything but a solid cornerstone. I quit weed cold turkey like 11 months ago after smoking daily for like 15 plus years. God, I spent so much money on that crap, like $160 to $300 plus bucks every month. I don't really miss it. It's weird, but weed isn't exactly a hard drug either. I'm shocked that after relapsing, phoning, and apologizing to your parents, you still managed to really quickly make it about just the money that you will inherit when they die, and have already negotiated a deal on that. As though children are entitled to inheriting their parents' money. Your parents are in their 60s. They might have 30 years left. Stop thinking about your parents' money. Earn your own and look after yourself, and who knows what will happen in like 10, 20, 30 years. To me, it seems like they were panicked about his relapse and told him what he needed to hear about money. Although, as a complete outsider, I obviously could be wrong. I'm getting the same feeling too. They'll probably mention him in the will though. You more or less proved their point. At the first hurdle, you immediately used again. If they give you a penny more, you'll just relapse. Having previously worked in estate planning, there are ways to leave money to a child or beneficiary that is an addict. You take their part of the inheritance and put it into a trust administered by a trustee. Someone they trust, perhaps a sibling, can act as a trustee. That trust can pay bills directly like rent or mortgage, utilities, etc., without giving the addict cash to use for drugs. It can be done. Had the parents consulted with a competent attorney, they would know this. Alright, and that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you later. Bye.